Zoning Board. This is the regular meeting of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment.
That ain't gonna work.
I'm getting a lot of feedback. Let me see something here. Hold on.
That's not good.
Steve,
What's going on?
you're muted. We can't hear you.
Hello. Hi, George.
Hi.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Great.
Can you hear me now? See, I'm getting feedback.
Feedback.
Yeah, there's feedback. We can hear you.
How many
Yeah, but I-
microphones? How many microphones you have going?
I'm sorry?
He's got a lot of them.
Can you
Yeah, I'm
turn
really
down the
sorry.
volume on the computer? Turn down the computer volume?
Okay, I can try that. Does that work? Obviously not.
Exactly.
Maybe if you mute the phone and leave the microphone on from the computer. Now unmute yourself on the computer. The computer.
Can't hear you.
There you go.
Try now, try now.
Can you try now?
Okay. All right. Getting feedback.
Court reporter's been a lot of fun with that feedback.
Can you do it with just your phone, Steve? Turn the computer off? Try to connect with us on your phone.
We either get too much of Steve or nothing tonight.
Derek, are you able to talk to Steve on his phone?
Yeah.
Maybe if he signs in and out again, maybe that would work.
You tried that, I
Yeah, I
think.
think you tried that.
Oh, okay.
Well, Michael, you've done this with using just your phone. Sometimes.
Michael who?
Michael Floyd.
Oh. No, I haven't.
He's gonna try another computer, so give him a few seconds.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna sign out and come in on a different device. I'm trying to get something else set up. I'll be right back.
Steve, do you have the stuff to read, or does just Steve have it?
I don't. I mean, I might. I run downstairs and I could find a version of it from 2 years ago, but I don't have that one. I should have it. I should have the template handy all the
I'll
time.
get you one.
Derek, do you have it? Can you read it to us?
Well, I can send it to Eve. I mean, it should be read by the chair. I'll have
Okay.
Claudia send it over. Excuse me.
Okay.
I already sent it. Check your email. I sent it.
I'm checking.
You're welcome.
Bernice, you're on twice.
Right. Yeah, I'm on an iPad and my computer. That way I have multiple screens to see everything. But I just swapped out my phone. I first came in on my iPad, then my phone, now my iPad, but I'm good now.
Well, technical difficulties on top of technical difficulties. I have a part of it, but it's very hard. Very hard to read. I don't even know. Wait a minute. Let me see. Maybe it's, oh, here we go. Okay, I will read the opening statement and we'll see how we do this. This is a regular meeting of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment being held electronically via Zoom on November 10th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given by prominently posting the sunshine notice of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment. Such notice has been placed on the official bulletin board at the Princeton Municipal Complex and by transmitting a copy of the notice to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, The Times, Trentonian, and by filing a copy with the clerk of Princeton on November 5th, 2021, and has been posted to the municipal website, www.princetonnj.gov/meetings. And it says choose the zoning tab to view. Pursuant to Executive Order 107, due to the state of emergency in New Jersey, COVID-19 coronavirus, notice that during the declared state of emergency, all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment will be held electronically via Zoom, was transmitted to, oh, well, I think I've already said that. That's a repeat. Such notice has been placed in all the window doors of the municipal complex. All right. I guess we'll take the roll then, right?
Yes.
So Claudia, if you could.
Olson,
Here?
Davich,
Here.
Mr. Floyd,
Here,
Mr. Shriver,
Here,
Mr. Tenenbaum, Mr. Cohen, Ms. Chen,
Here,
Mr. Stein,
Here.
Ms. Donna.
Yes.
Thank you.
So tonight, we have 3 applications. Do we really have nothing to approve from last time? Is that right?
No, there are no resolutions. There just wasn't enough time between the meetings, so that's correct. We're just going straight into applications tonight.
So the first one is 7 Hamilton Avenue. It's block 26.01, lot 5 in the R3 zone, and it's Z21-092. Derek, would you like to start?
Well, I think I'll hand it over to the applicant because nothing's changed since I read the memo last time, and I think they should start where they left off.
Okay.
Thank you, Derek. I'm going to indicate that just by way of a reminder where we were last time, Daniel Barsky is here and presented some slides. The application had essentially 2 parts last time. One was a rather standard variance for a lot which was not wide enough. It's 50 feet wide where 60 feet is required. And you may remember from his slides that the lot to the left is also 50 feet wide, so he couldn't obtain any land from them. The lot to his right, he showed you, was a little bit wider, but he showed you a letter from that neighbor indicating that he had no interest in selling land. So that is a standard variance that you grant all the time when someone cannot obtain more land. We then spent a good bit of time talking about the design of the home that he wanted to put on the house, on the land. And the fact that the garage stuck out a little bit. And there was a question about the neighborhood character ordinance and what it allowed and what it didn't allow. And he was asked to go back and do some more drawings. After discussion with staff and among the applicant crew, it was decided to simply ask you for the width variance and the frontage variance that's already been testified about, and not to go into asking the board for a determination or for a variance regarding that garage. So in an effort to keep things moving along, unless you want to see those slides from last month again, the applicant is finished and would just ask the board to approve the lot width and the frontage variance.
Chris?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was talking to Steve. Is the situation with the garage width variance, is that still in play or?
No, that's withdrawn.
Oh, okay.
So so you're speaking on behalf of the applicant at this point, and there's, I'm
Yes,
trying,
ma'am.
whether we want to go to see if there's public comment right now, or does anybody have any questions, I guess is what I should say.
Okay.
right? Does anybody have any questions right now?
Yeah, I have a question. What are you going to do for a garage?
No, what question was if you had a side facing garage, the width of the garage and so forth. The current thinking is perhaps to put it in the rear where doesn't matter, as long as it's back behind the house, it can look however it looks. So that for various reasons, it just worked out better that way in the design.
Makes sense. Thanks.
I have a question. Can you explain the drawing that we have in front of us, or that we have, just so I can understand what the red and blue lines are?
Daniel, do you want to bring it up?
I mean, I can share it if you want.
Either which way.
I mean, I'll bring it up. There.
Yeah. So Daniel could explain this, but Karen?
I was just gonna say, do you want to make this an exhibit? I think there was only one at the last meeting, A1, so.
I mean, we're not going to rely on it. We're not going to make an application regarding it. I almost hesitate to make it an exhibit. We just,
Okay,
the question came up, what is it? So
All right.
Hamilton is to the right and the backyard is to the left. And remember there was a shared driveway, and you can sort of see that in grayscale. And the lower blue line runs down the middle of the driveway. And the idea had been to have the garage incorporated into the home and to go into the garage using that blacktopped area. But for various reasons that we don't need to go into, it just, that back part of the house doesn't fit. And it's going to be easier just to replace that existing garage that you see there with a new garage.
And like I left, so that it was just like my supervisor.
Mr.
So
Shriver,
this
is
is-
that?
This is not a site plan either then, is that correct?
Well, I think it is, but Mr. Cohen's not here to discuss that with us. It's he wanted to see a plan that showed where the driveway was and how the house fit within the building envelope, and this is certainly shows that. But we've just decided not to proceed and to get into that discussion about the new home.
Do it however you want. Whatever timeline you want.
Is there somebody who might need to mute because of background noise?
But how do you construction constantly really get?
So again, I'd ask if the board members had any questions about the very simple and standard application for lot width and frontage width. I'd ask you to focus on that with us and see if you have any questions.
Okay. So could you take down, Steve, take this
Yeah,
down?
yep.
So, you know, we spent some time saying we normally, and especially the chairman, we normally want to have some type of visual of what is going to go in there, even when we do a lot with type.
not just sure that's true, Mr. Floyd, but
What are you saying is not true?
no, I say from my experience for a lot area, lot width, it is not my experience that you have seen the new home in its entirety.
Well, I didn't say in entirety,
Right.
but we see some type, and that was what Steve Cohen was saying last month too. We-
When the variance related to the home itself, when we were saying that we had 13 feet of exposed garage and he said, I want to see that, then that I understood and the drawing was presented prepared to deal with that home.
I don't recall it that way. He was saying we always have some type of site plan. That's my recollection. If someone else,
I'd like to just weigh in. Typically, I mean, for the MLUL, we cannot ask for a site plan for single family houses. And typically, we've gone back and forth, but the pattern over the last several years has been, as long as the applicant says that the house will comply with all the bulk requirements, except for the stuff they can't cure, like lot area, lot width, we can't require plans. So when they had the variance for that garage bump out and the odd, kind of an interpretation of the ordinance, they were applying both for an ordinance interpretation, but an appeal of at a variance if the board would grant it and didn't do the interpretation. But that's off the table now.
Right.
They're just going to make a complying house. So that's
Mr. Floyd, that's my understanding. And when you have a variance that involves a particular home or
Microphone,
style,
array, whatever.
I think
I
we're
am
hearing
not
Mr. Cohen.
saying,
System,
I am not
speaker,
saying
Samsung.
that it's required.
Right.
And it was said last month, it's not
I still
required,
have no-
but we always have it.
I think honestly, that had to do with a
That's what the
particular
tape
home.
will- That's what the tape will say.
Okay, I just, I won't argue with you about it. When you ask for a lot width, you don't need to show the home. That's my experience.
And I don't want to argue either, but Mr. Cohen asked for the plans because he wanted to see, his concern was, we're granting a variance and we don't know what the house is going to look like. So that was when Daniel said, sorry, Daniel had said, I'll get a survey and bring it into the next meeting. In the interim, they've decided not to seek that variance for the garage width. They just want the lot width variance and they'll make a complying house. So typically we can't require plans of that. Karen, is that
What I'll say is, yes, that's correct. We can't require a site plan. What the board has been doing, though, the last few years is asking applicants, do you have some rendering? What's the house going to look like? We'd just like to see that.
Right.
And my recollection is applicants have complied with that. Even if the house itself didn't require a variance, most applicants know what they want to build. So they already have some depictions and they show it to the board.
Right.
And they say, sure, we'll show you, here's what we think it's going to look like. So
Mr. Cohen, can you hear us yet? Can
Now
we
I
hear
can
you?
Now I can hear everything. I didn't want to interrupt.
Great.
No, so this is relevant because I don't know whether you heard my explanation a minute ago.
I didn't.
Mr. Barsky has decided to withdraw his application for a determination or for a variance regarding the home that was proposed. He's asking only for lot width and frontage. And in that context, the question was raised, well, shouldn't we see a site plan and or house renderings for even that application? And Mr. Bridger was kind enough to say that it's in that context, when you're not looking at a specific home or asking for a variance for specific home features, we haven't shown the home. And that's where you came in.
Okay. All right, Michael. Eve, do you mind if I take? Okay.
Go
Mike.
ahead.
I have a question at some point too, but go ahead.
We just had Miss Casey who said we normally do that. That is different than it's not required. I'm not saying it's required.
Right. Well, the implication was that Mr. Cohen would have wanted it for, even for the lot with variance when he asked for a site plan last month. We submitted a site plan, but now questions have arisen about whether that house is going to be built in that way. So we just don't want to waste the board's time.
Well, I'm just curious, as a practical matter, if it seems like it's a very narrow lot, I'm not an architect, but is it likely or that you would need to come back because it would be kind of impossible to build the garage that,
Well, it's a 50-foot wide lot, quite standard. The building envelope was on that drawing that Mr. Schreiber asked to have put up. You can see it's a standard width home. The intention is to build a home within the building envelope that does not require variances, and he would not come back.
But if in the event you do come back, or are you saying you are not going to come back?
There's no plan whatsoever to come back. If we came back, there would be house plans and a detailed site plan consistent with Mr. Cohen's request of last month.
And then we would rehear the whole hearing, a lot with everything related
Well,
to the hearing.
which is why he simply asked he's withdrawn the request for determination or the garage visibility issue. He said the application is for a standard lot width and frontage with a variance.
Well, it's
that
unusual.
seems-
It's unusual that we don't have anything to look at when we approve something like this.
Yeah.
I guess the question I have is in a situation like this, Karen, Derek, do we have to have a site plan or a building to review in the context of the variance?
I'll answer it this way. It's been said a couple of times tonight already, with a single family home, you don't need a site plan, and that is correct. In past years, the board has wanted to see a depiction because the property still needs variances. It's not the house, it's the lot itself. So the board has taken the position they would like to see, should we say, the relationship of the house
Right.
on the property. Some applicants have chosen to provide detailed building plans, but the board has not insisted on that. They simply said, we just want to understand, what are you building? How will it fit? Because your lot needs variances. In this case, it needs width and frontage. The applicant is saying, whatever I build, I don't need any other variances. It will comply. I'm telling you it will. But the board's position, and I'm going to say, I can't put an estimate on how many years, but it has been at least a few years now where the board has said it'd be really helpful us to see it,
Right.
or a depiction or the
right.
plot. Where will it fit on the lot?
And yet, Mr. Bridger, a few moments ago, stated, I believe, that the MLUL, the state law, doesn't require that it's a practice, and I acknowledge that. But he's withdrawn the application with respect to what would have been an interesting discussion about the sideways garage. And he's redesigning the home with the understanding that he's going to stay within the building envelope that you looked at just a minute ago.
So, Chris, if I can jump in for a second, I thought by withdrawing the additional variance or interpretation, I'd make this process simpler, but maybe if I pull up the original presentation and run through the lot width part, again, it's 3 or 4 slides to show that we're going to comply with all their bulk requirements and, to show the hardship that there's no other way to make lot width work. And that as much as I like coming to these meetings, I have no intention of coming back to the board for any additional variances beyond the lot width. Unfortunately, at the moment, I don't have specific plans to share with the board but it will comply in all other respects with all other bulk requirements, except for lot width, which I can't remedy in any way. And I don't know if it's
Mr. Chairman,
helpful to
Mr.
kind of.
Chairman, is that, would you choose to do that?
Well, I mean, if I guess it can't hurt, so let's give it a shot.
Okay.
Mr. Barsky, can we see you on the screen? I know you're under oath from last hearing,
Yeah.
but we can't see you.
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay. There you
Here
go.
I am.
Great.
Yeah. Just give me 1 second. Let me pull this up. I'm the wrong one. Chris, do you have that presentation handy by any chance?
I do not. Claudia, is it up on from the website?
Let me get her, excuse me.
I have it if you want me to pull it up.
That'd be great.
Claudia's trying to get it up now. Thank you.
I do have it.
Could we have Steve pull it up? I mean,
Can share it, go ahead. Steve,
Yep,
Deputized.
this one.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is it. So, essentially, the bulk of the presentation for lot width is in the first couple slides here. If you look at them at this map here, the Google Earth map, if you scroll down one, it shows the lot highlighted in yellow. That's 7 Hamilton Avenue. If you scroll down one slide further, outlined in yellow are the lot lines. And you can see within the dashed line in between is the building envelope. And all of the building is gonna comply with the side yard, front yard, rear yard setbacks, FAR coverage, impervious coverage. However, the lot is 50 feet wide, where 60 feet is required in this zone. And if you scroll down to the next slide, 2 adjacent lots, lot 6, on the one side doesn't have enough lot width to acquire to make lot 5 conforming, and lot 3, which does have enough lot width, has no interest in selling any portion of their lot. I did reach out to them, and on the following slide is a letter that they signed saying that they weren't interested in purchasing my lot, and that they had no interest in selling any portion of theirs, so that I can remedy my hardship. So to that extent, that's basically the whole presentation for lot width. Going further down starts talking about the interpretation and the side-loaded garage, which we really don't have to get into because, like Chris said, we're withdrawing that part of the variance or interpretation. we're going to be conforming in every aspect except for lot width, which in this instant, there's no way to remedy that hardship.
Is the house still gonna look like this? Dan?
It's going to be a similar type home. So it's not going to look exactly like that because this design has this garage that's side loaded, like tucked in between the house. And the feeling that I got from, from our last meeting was the board really wasn't really ready to make a decision on this. And for other factors and for other reasons, I'm not sure that this specific design is going to work. So what we decided to do is just withdraw this specific variance request and just ask for lot width. I don't have any specific design. All I can say is I'm not going to come back to the board. It's going to be complying in every other aspect.
Mr. Cohen, while you were coming on, Mr. Schreiber was kind enough to share the
Yeah,
site
no,
plan drawing.
I can hear now and I'm up to speed.
The site plan drawing that you had requested was submitted and was shown on the screen while you were
Yeah,
preparing.
and I have a copy of it, so I've
Right.
seen it. Yeah,
So the point is that it shows a home entirely within the building setbacks, and the testimony is that any new home would also be within those building setbacks.
well, the site plan showed a home with a side mounted garage that overhung the side yard,
Right.
but I guess, I'd like to hear from other board members on this, but even if there's no specific requirement that we have to see a site plan, then somehow I would think we could act on this and just obviously either approve or not approve the other variances, not the neighborhood ordinance waiver variance. But if you do come back, and I know you're saying you're not coming back, but if you do come back, we would rehear the whole thing, including lot width and everything else.
Fair enough.
I'd rather, quite frankly, not do this. I'd rather see the house that you propose. I understand where you're at, and because it's something that I think is again, good for the board and good for the public.
Quite honestly, we thought we were saving the board a great deal of time. We thought we were acting within the scope of the way the board has functioned for lot width variances, and I'm rather taken aback. Yeah, I really am.
Well, have you ever come before the board for a variance like this with no house plan?
I believe that I have, sir.
Well, I don't.
I've been doing this 45 years.
I'm sorry, but I don't remember in the time I've been on the board hearing a case with no house plan, but that's neither here nor there at this point. This is where we're at.
My very own house. I came 45 years ago, so I remember it pretty well.
Okay. All right, well, let me see. So let's move along here in our discussion. Do you have anything else you want to present right now?
No, sir.
Okay. Board members, questions, comments of Mr. Tar or Mr. Barsky?
I'm just still trying to understand how this relates to the neighborhood character issue. And so just again, for practical matter, what is the widest that the house can be if we were to approve?
The combined side yard, Daniel, is what?
It can only be 30 feet wide.
Because the side yards are a total of 20 feet.
So is it possible, just technically, is it possible to build even a one-car garage that would be less, if I understand that part about neighborhood, just correct me or help me out here, but is it possible to build a garage that would be less than 50%? Isn't that what we might need back to ask?
Well, but if you put it in the rear and face it toward the street, there's no issue whatsoever. When you put it behind the home. Derek, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
So if it's behind, and even if the
If
end,
it's, excuse me, and just to clarify, but I believe Chris said it would be a detached garage,
Correct.
so that's correct.
The neighborhood character clearly encourages dramatically the use of a rear yard detached garage. And so even a 2-car garage in the rear would conform, whereas the side loaded, because of the way that wording is, even though, as they're kindly pointed out, we met the spirit of the ordinance, he didn't feel comfortable saying that we met the letter of the neighborhood character ordinance with a side loaded garage that was more than 50% of the width of the home.
Yeah, I'm looking at the site plan now, and you could obviously build setback to setback.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Well, there's other restraints beyond setbacks. For example, coverage and
oh, of course,
FAR.
yes. Well, the
So
bulk related standards, sure.
yeah, so it's not like I'm going to be able to fill out that whole red dash line that you see, but
I
I'm
understand.
certainly going to work within those parameters and also have to comply with FAR and coverage and all the rest. You can kind of see there's like a little rectangle in the back. There's actually a detached garage there now. So the idea is kind of going to be the same.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I don't see.
exactly. So if there's like a little shaded out gray area, like towards the rear. Yeah. So right there that's an existing detached garage. So, and the neighbor also has an existing detached garage, and it's gonna stay the same kind of concept. Obviously in compliance with all the requirements with that.
All right. Okay, do you have anything else you want to, I want to try to see if we can get some comments from the other board members here. Anyone like to comment or bring up any questions or just opinions related to this?
Yeah, I don't see why they can't build a compliant house, you know, if you know, with the setbacks that I see and the size of the lot and, you know, what's possible. So I don't see an issue with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it appears that a house can be built within those setbacks. I don't think there's any question about that. I would agree. Anybody else want to comment here? All right, well, okay.
you know, it might be interesting to find out what the intention of this was relative to this kind of a plan, because I don't think anyone's seen a plan like this. I haven't before. And I think it's a kind of, it's actually kind of a
If you took a straw poll and voted and said you all thought it was great, we'd take a vote, but
Well, but we really, I don't think, Eve, we don't have a plan now.
no, we really didn't want to go there. You know, there's all sorts of correspondence. Mr. Floyd was nice enough to bring up some old notes and minutes. It's something that the governing body should take up and clear up for you.
that's what
And I don't disagree with that, but right now, Eve, we don't have a plan. We only have a lot with a building envelope on it.
what I'm talking about is the idea that we saw last month, and to some extent that we're seeing right now, which is a garage that's attached, that's turned sideways, that's not, you know, that's not facing the street, and yet it is more than 50%, you know. So that's where we're at least I'm kind of stuck, is that I don't think it's a bad solution, but it might not be what was meant, what was intended.
And it's just.
But they're not proposing that anymore, Eve. They're withdrawing that. So
We don't have a plan anymore. They're saying that most probably, well, first of all, they're not going to build that house because they would be required to come back before us at some point unless the governing body, you know, gave us an interpretation and would change the ordinance. But we don't have a plan right now. So all we have is a lot and a series of setbacks and bulk requirements that they have to meet, which they're saying they will meet.
Right.
It says we don't have a view of the proposed house, which is unusual, but I guess not in violation of anything, or not a requirement that they did not meet.
And honestly, if I had a house to share with you guys, I would be glad to. It's, you know, the back and forth with, can it go to the side, can it not? And, you know, also to have, you know, a little bit of lateral movement in the design, as long as it, you know, meets all the requirements, is the intention.
Yeah. All
So
right.
it's not like I'm holding back some type of information. I truly don't have anything to share with you guys at the moment, except to say I'm not coming back to the board with this particular application. It will meet with all the bulk requirements and
lot
and I-
constraints and everything else you have. Is that correct?
what's that?
And any other constraints created on the lot, the shared driveway,
Right.
things like that.
Yep.
Although all those things will be addressed outside of coming back for a variance beyond lot width, which I've tried to remedy. I can't. But yes, all the elements, shared driveway, setbacks, FAR, coverage, height to setback, all the above, we
right.
will comply with.
Okay, all right, thank you. Board members, any comments before I open it up to the public?
My only comment, I'd be much more willing to vote for this if I had some idea what that house is gonna look like. I mean, I know what you're saying, but on the other hand, if it's some garish house that doesn't fit in the community, I wouldn't vote to give them a variance.
We're getting pretty far out of what the law would allow you to do, Mr. Schreiber. You're not allowed to approve the architecture of a given home. You're really not.
No, but I do have to approve the variance.
I understand, but if you were to deny the variance because you thought the house was ugly, that might be a legal problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't
No,
dis-
I
I don't
agree,
disagree.
but I'm just telling you how I feel.
I understand. It's just quietly.
I mean, because
worrying.
I am concerned about the community and I am concerned
I
about that
understand.
street and,
Yeah.
you know, I'd like to have a house that fits in the community.
Well, unfortunately, all we have to go on for design criteria is the neighborhood character ordinance and all our bulk standards. We don't have anything, quite frankly, that we can call up as a criteria for design. I mean, I'm not crazy about it, but that's what we have. It is unusual, Stephen, and I don't disagree with you at all. But I don't know if we really have any ability to do anything else on this.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, so hearing no one else on the board wants to speak, I'll open this up to the public. Claudia, has anybody indicated that they would like to speak?
Don't see any hands raised.
Okay. We'll give it a second here. All right, well, look, barring any comments from the public, we'll close the public portion and go into executive session. Before that, Mr. Tar, you have anything else you'd like to add before we go into executive session?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, board members, we have an application, however unusual, before us, and it's a little different than we anticipated. We don't have a house anymore. We just have a lot. And part of the question in the original application's been taken out, which is, I think, the most controversial portion of that. And so all we have before us is just a simple undersized lot variance. So does anybody have any comments, questions, or would someone like to make a motion?
Steve, is it standard practice for us to approve this type of request?
Well, I would, in my opinion, and Derek, Karen, in the past, we've gone through this many, many times. We've seen houses on each of the applications that have come before us, but we've routinely approved them. And we even question many times why they have to come before us if they're on an undersized lot. And they can't acquire additional land to remedy that, and why it can't be done administratively, but that's up to the governing body and we have no control over that. So these applications routinely come to us. Anybody else have anything to add? Or would someone like to make a
No,
motion?
I would move to approve.
Michael, please.
Yeah, I'm going to vote for this. I'm going to vote for it for a few reasons. I have some understanding of the neighborhood character ordinance, and it's not a really all-encompassing, you can't build certain looks. It covers a few aspects, and I'm especially saying this for Eve's benefit. And you could not preclude a modern looking house that you may say it doesn't fit into the neighborhood. The neighborhood character does not get that overbearing. I think also, if anybody comes before us for a lot with, even with the drawing, we're approving the lot width, and they can change the drawing after the fact.
Of
course. Because there wasn't any variances needed anyway with a compliant building. And lastly, I find, just my experience, my opinion, that Mr. Barsky has been a really agreeable, reliable, in the past developer who looks to cooperate. So I'm ready to move forward with it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you, Michael. I think, we routinely approve these in the past, even when we have a house. And because whatever the house looks like, it looks like. Eve, did you want to say something?
I guess I would just kind of repeat myself to say that it might be good for all of us if the governing body would give us some more clarity about what their intention was about the neighborhood character. That's all.
Okay, I agree.
Agreed.
Anything that we can do here tonight. That's why I brought it up, though.
Okay. I agree with you, Eve. Okay, does somebody else want to speak, or someone want to make a motion? We can.
I think Bernice did make a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay,
Whoa, wait a minute. Claudia, can George vote tonight?
Oh, probably not.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
7.
Well, he was,
1, 2.
Yeah, I think we have 7, we have 8 tonight. So I don't think George can vote.
Right. No, you're right. You're right.
I'll second it then.
Need someone to jump
okay.
in.
So this is, Bernice, just a motion to approve the
Lot width.
lot width and, okay, well, one thing I'd like.
Isn't it lot width and frontage?
Yes, lot width and frontage.
Okay.
I'd like to add, though, if this is okay, Bernice, I'd like to add that if I didn't, all right. I'd like to add that if this does come back to us, and I realize Mr. Barsky and Mr. Tar, that it's not going to come back to us, but just on the off chance that it does, that we'll hear this from the beginning again. We'll reconsider lot width and frontage. Is that, well, that's what I would like to add to it, Bernice, if that's okay.
That's plenty of incentive not to come back, Mr. Chairman.
That's great. So, all right, if that's okay, Bernice, and we can add that to then I guess if anybody else is like just to make any other comments, or should we just vote on it at this point?
Vote.
All right, let's Claudia, can you call the roll?
Colson,
Yes.
Mr. Davidge,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes,
Mr. Shriver,
Yes.
Ms. Chen,
Yes,
Mr. Stein,
He can't vote, Claudia.
okay, so
Chairman
can
Cohen,
vote.
Chairman Cohen.
I can vote, yeah. Claudia?
Shriver, I didn't get Mr. Shriver.
Yes.
Thank you. Chairman Cohen.
Yes,
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
night.
well,
Right.
Okay, moving right along. Our next hearing is case number Z21-096, 7 Castle Howard Court, Block 7701, Lot 24 in the R5 zone. Karen, is everything in order? All the
It is.
notices?
The noticing is in order. The board has jurisdiction.
Derek, can you review your memo with us?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lauren and Sean Gleason are the owners and applicants for 7 Castle Howard Court. They're seeking C1 and C2 variance relief to permit the installation of a front porch addition and exception to the required prevailing front yard setback. The subject property is in the R5 zone. Subject lot is complying with the applicable bulk record requirements. However, the house itself is non-complying with the front yard setback on Prospect. It's a prevailing front yard setback, which is 97 feet. The existing is 70.3 feet. And it's also non-complying with the front yard setback on Castle Howard. The requirements 52 feet and the existing is 43.4 feet. The applicant is proposing to construct a 7 by 12 open front porch with a master bathroom addition above it on the Prospect Avenue elevation. The addition encroaches into the prevailing front yard setback. The following variance is required. As I mentioned earlier, the requirements 97 feet for the prevailing front and the proposed is 70.3 feet. And they requested consideration under the C1 and C2 criteria. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address them. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Claudia, could we elevate Jeff Fleischer and Lauren Gleason?
Give me a minute. I wasn't prepared to. pull
I
up
can
the
do it.
files.
I think I can do it. Let's see.
Karen, I guess I should be sworn in. I'm not sure if I was.
I'm not sure you were either. Do you swear affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Sorry. Why that's not working. And Lauren, right? Lauren Gleason?
Yes, yes. We have a slide presentation that is a little bit, that includes some of these drawings. There's Lauren.
He's
And there's
muted.
Jeff. You're both muted. If you could unmute, we're going to have you both sworn. Great. Karen?
Yes. Do you both swear affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
We do have a slide presentation of 9 slides, which if Jeff could get permission to share his screen, we'd put them up. But if we could mark that, those 9 slides as Exhibit A1.
Okay.
and then share the screen. So as we get started, Jeff, you're a registered architect in New Jersey and in good standing,
Yes,
and you prepared the drawings that we're going to look at.
yes, I did.
Mr. Chairman, if he could proceed as the architect,
I would think that would be fine. Thank you.
that's great. So as Mr. Bridger indicated, the only variance that we've got is an encroachment into the prevailing setback on the Prospect. I just ask you to digest this. The prevailing setback for our immediate neighbors is 97 feet from the street. That's as deep as many lots. Just so you know, it's an extraordinary depth, and we'll show you some aerial photos. But that's the circumstance. And compound that, if we go to the first slide, the first active slide, Jeff. It's a corner property. It has the address, of course, of 7 Castle Howard, so it faces Castle Howard, but it also faces Prospect. And in the township portion of the town, we still have the rule that you have 2 front yards. So it creates a very strange situation. If we go to the next slide, Jeff's going to begin to explain the circumstance. This is the existing home, and it has he'll correct me if I mispronounce it, it's a gambrel roof, which is steeply slopes in the front. And we've color coded the front portion of the house as you see it on the second floor. And you can see that steep slope cuts through the existing master bathroom. And before I ask Jeff to explain what he's designed, I'm going to ask Lauren to tell us how tall her husband is.
Gonna unmute. I'm sorry if you hear the baby screaming in the background, but Sean is 6 feet 5 inches tall.
So without going into any great detail, is it fair to say that he has some practical difficulties dealing with the ceiling height in the bathroom?
Yeah, well, we haven't moved in yet because I assured him that I would find a way to make him be able to shower standing up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
yeah,
So Jeff,
as it is right now, he cannot fit in that shower.
take it away, Jeff.
Right, so as you can see in the shaded area, that's where the headroom difficulty is. And actually on the second floor, the highest ceiling height is only 7'3". So part of the renovation is to raise the ceiling to a minimum of 8 feet, as well as add a new bathroom in the front for the owner suite.
So here's the lot laid out. We didn't highlight it, but I wonder if Jeff could use his cursor to point out where the prevailing front setback line exists off of Prospect. You can see his cursor going up and down. So that's 97 feet. And the existing main house is at 70 feet from Prospect. That's the existing condition. And the next slide. There's the porch that exists. Am I right, Jeff?
That's the addition, but this sidewalk or walkway exists.
And the steps to the front
The
door,
steps.
right? And so I think, Derek, you may have misspoken. The existing condition is 70 feet. The proposed condition is 63 feet from Prospect, where
Yes.
97 feet is required.
Correct, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So do you want to show us what you're going to do here, Jeff?
Yeah, so this is on the left-hand side is existing house. And the right-hand side is what we're proposing to add to the gambrel roof using some of the same roof lines. And then adding this front entry porch, covered porch
Right.
front of the building.
So the stoop already exists and you're proposing to bring the columns and the second floor out a distance of 7 feet more into that yard.
Correct.
Okay. The next slide shows an unusual condition in that yard. Those trees exist. And so we're looking at it from what? From the corner of Prospect and the Castle Howard?
Yes,
And is it fair to say you can barely see the house?
correct. This right in here is the front door.
And you're not planning on removing any of those trees or any of the screening vegetation there, are you?
The addition itself is not affecting any trees.
Okay,
In fact, that's a very interesting photo. If you go back a couple slides, that you have that behind the trees, you have quite a nice yard. That's all existing yard.
When you step into the front yard, yeah.
yeah,
So then let's scroll forward again, and there's another view, an aerial view of those trees and the house to see the dense nature of the screening. I think the last slide just explains again more graphically, the house immediately to the up the slide, up Prospect is set back an enormous distance. And then the other houses on that block are also set back. And in fact, I think the one at 416 is set back the most, but it's like scores in diving. You get to throw one out when you're counting the prevailing front yard. But it's still 97 feet, which it's just as extraordinary. So the relief that's requested is to allow for the construction of that sort of 7-foot square bathroom addition, encroaching into this side yard that abuts Prospect. We have some house plans if you'd like to see them of that addition, but it's just that simple.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out one other, so the plan on the left is the existing conditions. The plan on the right is the addition. Also, as part of the renovation, we need to open up the stair because as you come up the stair, there's a pinch point or a head knocker at about 6'1". Part of this addition is to alleviate that at that stair, that headwind condition.
Right.
okay.
So unless there are any questions, I think we're finished.
I have none. Any board members have any questions? of the
I have a
applicant?
question. I have a question. Can you go to the last slide you showed with the setbacks?
Slide 9.
That one. If you look at the houses on either side of your property, there is a corner sticking out on each one of those. Would that be about equal to what you're doing in terms of encroaching onto the?
I think so. There's a very precise rule about which houses are used to measure and which you don't. But you're right, the corner of some of those, we've drawn a yellow line where we sort of took the mass of the house, but they might stick out further. But by the engineering department's measurement, the average on our block is 97 feet back.
Yeah, but I mean, my point though is in practical terms, your house isn't really going to stick out any
No,
more than
and
the
particularly,
other
no,
two.
and all the ones across the street, you can see they're that's a normal sort of a 40-foot front yard.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Other board members, questions? Okay. Mr. Tar, I'm going to open it up to the public at this point. Hello?
Yes?
Okay, I'd like to, if you have nothing more to
No,
present.
no.
Okay, so, and no board members have any other questions? Let's open it up to the public. Claudia? Have
There are
you?
no hands.
There are no hands, okay. All right, we'll close the public portion and go into executive session. Do any board members have any further questions? Or, excuse me, Mr. Tar, do you want to close with anything?
No, I just a recollection of my own. In 2017, I did an application on Snowden where the lot was a corner lot on Leabrook. And in that case, the garage encroached into the rear yard in just the way this porch would. And the architect wanted to just raise the roof on the garage to comply, to make it look like the other roof lines on the house. And the board granted that relief. This is very similar to that, in my opinion, and it may warrant being placed on the list of things to ask the governing body to take a look at, is why the township has 2 front yards and you have to have the prevailing when you go around the corner.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go into executive session. Comments from the board, questions, or would someone like to make a motion?
Jeff, will you quit sharing your screen, please?
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Before there's a motion, I want to just say, I think I misspoke in terms of who's eligible to vote. And in fact, I think Mr. Stein is eligible because Ms. Dana is our second alternate. So that was my mistake. So George, if you want to make a second or a motion or vote, you're eligible to do so.
Thank you.
I move we approve this application.
Second, anyone?
Oh, George. I will second.
Hey, very good. Okay, any questions on the motion? All right, Claudia, can you please call the roll?
Colson,
Yes.
Mr. Davich,
Yes.
Foy,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Chen,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes,
Thank you.
good luck with the house, and I think looking at your plan, I can tell which side of the master closet you'll be using.
Although his clothes are much bigger than mine.
We neglected to say he's a football coach.
That's it, good. Well, good luck with it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
You're welcome. Okay, let me get back to our agenda here. We have one more case before us this evening, and that is case number Z 21-095, 166 Linden Lane, block 7302, lot 7 in the R8 zone. Karen, is everything in order?
It is, the noticing is in order. The board has jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Mr.
you.
Donahue, is there, should we move anyone?
Yes, would you please? We have Selena Bakshi, Vivek Upadhyay, Frank Falcone, and David Berici.
Okay, Derek, would you like to share your memo with us?
Thank you, Chairman. Lena Bakshi and Vivek Upadhyay are the owners and applicants of 166 Linden Lane. It's located in the R8 zone in the former Princeton Township. They are seeking C1 and C2 variance relief to permit the construction of a home on a lot in exception to the required lot area. They're requesting bulk variances for side and rear yard setbacks to construct a detached garage. The lot is non-complying with respect to the required 8,500 square foot lot area. The existing lot is 6,869 square feet. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing single-family house and construct a new roughly 2,378 square foot home with a detached garage. The plans submitted are a little bit over FAR. It may be one of my mistakes, but I'll work it out with the applicant. Proposed home features a kitchen, living room, dining room, family room, 4 bedrooms, and a finished attic with 2 additional bedrooms. Proposed detached single-car garage encroaches into the rear and side yard setbacks, and the following variances are required for the garage. The required rear yard setback is 15, the proposed is 7. The required side yard setback is 8 feet, and the proposed is 4 feet. And they're also, just reiterating the lot area request requirements, 8,500, and the existing is 6,869.
I have a question, Derek.
Yes, sir.
What are the issues related to the house?
Pardon me?
What are the issues related specifically to the house?
The old house or the new
The
house?
new house?
I'm a little over on the FAR. It may be a drafting area, but I wanted to get the application deemed complete. We're like 10 square feet different, so I think the board can approve it and it'll comply with FAR. David and I will discuss it and figure out if there's an error or.
Okay, and in all other aspects, it will comply. I mean, it's this small area. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right,
Eric, just a question, but you're saying it does need rear yard setback variances, right?
For the garage,
For the garage, okay.
detached garage.
detached garage. Okay, Mr. Tar?
Could we have everybody sworn except the baby?
Sure. All right, so if the applicants and Mr. Falcone and Mr., is it Barici, am I pronouncing it correctly?
That's correct. That's fine.
Okay, good, close enough. All right. If you all swear or affirm that your testimony this evening will be truthful.
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
And as was the case before, we have a slide presentation of 9 slides, and if we could mark that as A1. And we'll walk through that primarily using Frank Falcone. Now, Frank, you testified many times before this board. You're a land surveyor.
We'll accept Frank.
Well, here's numerous credentials. And David has also testified and you are an architect, a registered architect, and you
Yes, I am.
prepared these drawings.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we will.
So David, Frank, you're going to try to share your screen.
Yes.
Let's give a run at it.
Okay.
And while we're doing that, every application, has something that makes it sort of fun, like the 6'5" football coach. Selena, tell us what's fun about this house.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So my name is Selena Bakshi's. This is my husband, Vivek Upadhyay, and this is our 3-week-old newborn daughter named Mira.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I grew up in Princeton, in Pennington, New Jersey. We spent a lot of time in Princeton. My grandparents actually lived in 166 Linden Lane. And so this house has been in our family for many years. My mom suddenly passed away last year. Her name was Simi Bakshi. And so my husband and I were both physicians in Boston right now, but we have decided to move back to Princeton to be closer to family, to my father and to my brother. And this property is a really special place for us because I grew up spending many days every week with my grandparents at this property and in Princeton. And so for us to be able to kind of, to live here and raise our daughter here, be close to my dad, be close to my brother, it's really meaningful for us as we grow our family and take this next chapter in our life there.
That's great. As I say, there's always something special about each case, and that's certainly special. So thank you. Frank, I had the 9-slide set. I don't see it up.
Well, Chris, I pulled up our plans first. I'll go to that one second.
Oh, okay, go right ahead then.
Yeah. And what you're seeing here is an aerial view on the right with the existing house here. You're seeing the Princeton zoning map designating the property in question there. Second slide is the plan of existing conditions. That's the house that's there now.
Make a special reference to the shed in the back.
Yeah, we have this shed in the back. I guess, Karen, should we give this a exhibit A1?
Okay, this is not your
No, we have
PowerPoint presentation.
We've got 2 PowerPoint presentations. One that's Frank's. We better mark that A1, and the next one you're going to see of 9 slides would be A2.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the plan of existing conditions. I will note that the proposal is only 153 square feet in additional coverage than the existing. So it's a very minimal amount of lot coverage. This slide is here to show the relationship within 200 feet of the subject property. Several lots adjoining and across the street are all basically the same lot size, 50 by 125. I think maybe getting back to Derek's comment about some issues with FAR, I think he might have the lot size incorrect. It's 6225, not 68 and change. So that may be the cause of the issue. And then this is just a blow up of the existing proposed conditions. And you can see we have a lot that's only 50 feet wide. It's only 6250 square feet, where 8,500 is required minimum. We have the proposed garage at 7 feet from the rear yard and 4 feet from the side yard. So now I'll get into the other PowerPoint proposal. I guess we'll mark this A2.
Thanks, Frank.
Basically, again,
We don't see it yet.
I see it on mine. I'm not sure if you see it on yours.
No, you may have to unshare this one.
Okay. Stop share.
Yeah, try it and then start share on the other one.
Okay, let's go with this. How's that?
Yep. No,
Okay,
let's
that
get back
works.
to the, let's get, yeah, okay.
Right, we'll call this A2. It's a series of exhibits. This is again the zoning map with the big arrow pointing to the subject lot. It's fronts on Linden Lane. It's unique in that it has reverse frontage on Franklin Avenue. To where the R8 here, where my cursor is the Princeton Middle School. And then on the other side is the Westminster College, the Rider University property. The next slide here is our zoning chart, which shows that there are two existing conditions. One is the deficient lot size, and the other is the combined side yard where 20 feet is required and only 18.5 exists. That's existing. The proposed conditions, the lot size cannot change. And then the other two variances asked for tonight relate to the proposed garage. We have a 7-foot rear yard where 15 feet is required and a 4-foot side yard where 8 feet is required. To give a perspective about lot size in this area, everything here in the red signifies an undersized lot. And out of 41 lots, only 4 lots meet the lot size requirement. So this is very in character with the neighborhood. All the lots basically are undersized. The next slide shows the subject property in blue with the 2 adjacent properties. This slide is to show you that we cannot acquire additional lands from the adjoining properties to make ourselves whole without making them more deficient. So there's no way we can comply. That's the hardship basically in the situation. The next slide indicates the existing shed. The proposed garage will be in this area. And this slide is a rendering of the architectural front elevation of what's being proposed. And this shows the proposed garage, the 4-foot side yard, and the 7-foot rear yard. No matter how we tried to place this garage in compliance, the problem was you could not access it with the car. It would be too tight and you could not maneuver a car into the garage. So we're asking for relief under a C2 variance where the benefits outweigh the detriments, and I really believe that this does. The site will comply in every other bulk requirement. with the exception of the garage placement and the overall lot size.
Go to the next slide, which shows that the rationale just a bit more.
This one here, Chris?
Yeah. So again, it shows the road behind, so there's no
Yeah,
impact.
this is Franklin here. I guess it could be accessed. I don't think it's the best planning alternative to do. I think when you have reverse frontages, you like to just deal with one frontage at a time.
Interestingly, the neighbor's garage to the right is also appears to be virtually right on the line.
Yes, it is. And I will say that there's a solid fence, although it's called a chain link fence. I was out there today. There's a very solid fence here. There's a lot of vegetation. And actually, the proposed garage will provide some screening and some blockage into the rear of this house. So I think it's actually a benefit. And when you're on Franklin, you really cannot see into this back. So I don't think there's any detrimental effects by placing the garage back there.
Just out of curiosity, is that piece of land between the rear fence and Franklin, is that part of the public right of way?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
That's part of Franklin.
that's part of Franklin. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So then in a nutshell, that's it. We've got the standard lot area variance and proof that nothing could be obtained to change that. And the only variance having to do with the structures is this business about not setting the garage back 15 feet from the rear yard and 8 feet from the side yard, but rather setting it back 7 feet from the rear yard and 4 feet from the side yard to help screen from Franklin. And that's the case.
Okay. All right. Board members, any questions of the applicant or the witnesses? Okay. Mr. Tar, we're going to go into executive session. Do you want to add anything?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Oh, excuse me. We're going to go into the public portion of the hearing. I'd like to open it up to the public at this point. Claudia, do we have anyone who's raised their hands?
No hands.
No hands. Slow night tonight. Right. Okay. Hearing none, we'll close the public portion of the hearing and go into executive session. Again, before we start, Mr. Tar, once again, for the third time, would you like to say anything else?
No, sir. Again, there's some house drawings that are beyond the elevation if you wanted to see them, but there's nothing about the house that's at issue.
Okay, thank you. Okay, board members, any comments, questions, or motions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Of those of you who are much wiser about this sort of stuff than I am, why is, for instance, in this house, why is there a setback rule from a corner like that? Why couldn't you put the garage all the way back into the corner instead of setting it out 4 feet and 8 feet?
Well, I mean, I think you mean shove it further back than the 7
Yeah.
feet?
Because you essentially lose that yard portion behind that.
Oh, yeah,
Behind
you
it,
do.
you're not gaining anything. There's
Yeah, I mean-
nobody lives behind the house.
I don't think you'd want to put it up against the property line. I mean, you want enough to maintain the garage and make sure the land around it is neat and tidy, but yeah, they could, especially in this house where it's, there's a big right of way behind it. I guess if they could have come before us and said, we want to go with a 4-foot rear yard or whatever. I would think that the 4 foot on the side is pretty much the minimum.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Well, I would just add that in the former township, there are no setbacks for accessory structures as opposed to the former borough,
Mhm.
where they have 5 and 5, rear and side. So Princeton's former township has never had any accessory structure setback lines, and that always makes for issues, I will say.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, one quick question. I assume the shed's not shown in the new plan, so the shed's going to disappear?
Well, we have included it in the coverage. I don't believe the applicant has told us that they want to take it down.
It's
It
not
doesn't
tri-
call, it
Vivek,
doesn't
here's
cause a
your-
coverage variance. let's
Here's
put
your
it that
chance,
way.
Vivek. Tell us what you want to do.
Yeah,
Yeah, we are planning on taking the shed down.
okay.
Oh, there's
You're
some
taking it
FAR.
down.
There's some FAR for you, Derek.
Yeah, and that'll
No,
improve
and
the
I will
coverage.
have to talk about the shed to see if it works with the FAR. I can't remember if I included it, but I did use the correct lot area, 6250. I checked my calculations,
All
so
right, so David
it
has some
works-
work to do. He's gonna,
if it
he's
works with the
gotta,
FAR, fine, we'll figure it out.
we understand we have to slice off 10 feet. We get it.
Yeah, the shed isn't shown in the new site plan. That's why.
That's correct, you're right. But I
Okay,
did include it in the coverage. I wasn't sure whether it was being taken out or not.
you didn't show it on your site plan.
Yeah, you're correct.
Okay, any other comments, or would someone like to make a motion?
I just have a question. So there's no height to setback issue with the 4-foot side yard?
I don't believe there is in this zone that there is a side yard.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. I actually think this is I think it's a nice house.
Yeah.
I think it's got a great story to it. And I think the garage placement is fine. So, I mean, I like it. I just think would I want to try to come in off of Franklin and save having a driveway all along the side of the house, but I probably wouldn't if I had to drag groceries into the house, so.
I think also, Steve, the backyard is a little bit higher than
Mhm.
Franklin is.
Oh, okay.
It's,
Yeah.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yes, it
yeah,
is.
it's not really functional to do it that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's an odd turn too in
Yeah.
the road
Yeah.
there.
Well, you'd have to pull the garage further in and so it wouldn't make sense. Just a
Yeah.
thought. So,
I move we accept this proposal.
okay.
Second,
We have, who seconded it? George, Michael, you
Mike.
did. Okay, good. Okay. Any comments, further comments before we take a vote?
Well, it looks like a very nice house. I think it's gonna be a good addition to the neighborhood. And
I think too.
I think
it is
having
also-
two new doctors in the neighborhood with a new family is a good thing too.
I have kind of a pain in my back. Oh, we can discuss. All right, well, Claudia, can you call the roll?
Coulson,
Yes.
Mr. Savage,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
yes,
Shriver,
Yes,
Ms. Chen,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes. Thank you very much. Good luck in your house and with your new baby.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
and good night.
Before we close for the evening, I want to apologize for my problem with the computer here. I think I don't know what it is. It's a new one on me, but luckily I had a second computer I brought it up on, so excuse me for that.
It's happened to all of us, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Okay, well, thank you. And I don't think we have anything else this evening, so
Good. Chairman,
yes.
I just want to go over the lot area stuff, if we could have a minute, maybe,
Oh.
on what you guys want to require.
Okay,
Because it had been, I was requiring house plans and then I kind of went away from that. And then I'm happy to do whatever the board's wishes are.
well, my personal feeling is I'd like to see a house plan. But in reality, and I forgot who mentioned it, one of the board members mentioned, there is no requirement. And on the undersized lot situation, we routinely have approved anything that's come before us. And so and since there is no requirement that they do submit a house plan, I don't think I don't think we really can, because even if they do, they can change it as long as they meet the bulk standards, because they're testifying that they're gonna meet all the bulk standards for the lot. They're not, in most cases, they don't come in specifically. Well, I guess they do and say
Yeah, they
it'll
do.
be.
I said, what I was going to say is, I just wanted to point out that it's true, the municipal land use law does not require a site plan for a single family home. Remember, site plan is more complicated than just a rendering of the house. It would have information about elevations and soils and drainage and everything else. So when you say site plan, the reaction is, wait a minute, why do I have to do all that? There is a case law that I think would say the board, there's nothing wrong with the board wanting to see what is the house that is being put there? How does it relate to the structures around it? So I've always understood the board's desire to see that in that context. That's why you've been asking for it. If the ordinances ever get changed so that if you have an existing house and you tear it down, you don't have to come back in and say, yeah, my lot area is a little under, my width is a little under, but there's been a house on this property for 75 years. But right now, that's not what the ordinance says. It says, you want to make a change, you want to tear it down, you have to come in for the variance. So my understanding is that's why the board in the past wanted it, that you also got questions from the public. People came and said, I wanted to understand what is being built. How big is it? What does it look like? So although you don't have design control, because you don't have anything in the ordinance that helps you with that, I think that's why the board has been asking for it in the last few years, just to understand. And yeah, I mean, the point is, if I offer testimony to you and say that's what I'm building, well, then that's what I've said I'm building. So to the extent that it weighs into your approval, if somebody said, well, I have a strangely shaped lot, and here's how I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to situate the house this way. And I'm not going to give you a bunch of elevations, but I do have a rendering and I would like you to see it. And I think it fits in well on the lot, and maybe I do need some other bulk variances, again, for the lot, not the house. And of course, if the house needs variances, then I don't think anybody could argue with that if the house itself is not going to comply, of course you need to provide something. But I think even when the board has simply been told it's too narrow or it's just too small, at least the last few years, you've said, well, could you show us, just give us an idea, what's it going to look like? So, and that's why, I mean, there are some cases which would indicate, can you ask to see some depiction? Yeah, you can. Can you deny it if you don't like it? Well, that's another story. You say, I think it's a very ugly house. Maybe not, but the point is that you're seeing it in relationship to the property. So I think that was the reasoning in the past.
Okay.
But there brings out a good point. Moving forward, how would you like to approach it? Because if applicants are told, can we absolutely force you to do this? Maybe not, but it's helpful to you, the applicant, to let the board see that. The board would like to see it.
I guess the question I would have is if an applicant comes to us, and as Mr. Tar did this evening, he's not the applicant, but basically he's saying, I don't have a house now.
Well, I think what Mr. Barsky said was that drawing that was in their exhibit, I believe what he said was, yeah, it will be similar to that. Is it exactly that? No, because it's a narrow lot. So it will be something like that. But this application is a little bit different because they came in with other variances, particularly for that garage and or an interpretation. And you said to them, well, I want to see it. You're asking me for a variance specific, especially for the garage. So I think their assumption was once that was pulled back, they said, well, what is it you have to see then? Why?
You know, I think when the Barsky came in front of us with a house out near the Hun School that he was going to tear down, and we gave him approval, but I don't think he had a drawing of that house either.
No, what kind of happened was we went back and forth, and it was, because before it was much more of a hot button issue. There were a lot of public at a lot of the hearings on certain cases. Sorry, Steve is off again, sorry. Hello? Okay, I'll put you on speaker.
Okay, so I'm sorry, guys, but my computer cut out again. But so that was my question. Do we have any choice but to approve it if they choose not to come before us with a plan? What basis is it? Is it just up to the board to make the decision to require it? Recording in progress. No, that's not gonna work. All right. So is it just up to us to make a determination? Can we do that? And what if an applicant comes before us and says, no, I don't have a plan?
Well,
Can I add something? And that's what had happened before. I'd said, like, I requested plans from the applicant because we can't compel them to give us plans. I'm just trying to figure out, because we kind of seem to get away from requesting plans, and I just want to do what the board, give you as much information that you need to make a good decision, so.
Yeah, no, and I agree with, I appreciate that. I think that's good, but do we have any recourse if they say, I choose not to submit a plan?
well, I have to say, I'm trying to think back in the time frame where the board has now more regularly asked people for some rendering. And I can't think of too many applicants that said no. One or two, yeah, they said, I don't have to, I don't want to. Can't remember the name of that applicant, but my recollection is that in the end, they came through with something. They said, well, okay, if that's going to help you weigh our variance. Because remember, they're coming to you because they need a variance. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. They need something. So if you're saying it's helpful to figure this out or to weigh what you're asking for, I'm not aware, as I said, I can only think of one or two where the applicant dug their heels in and said, I don't want to. Why should I? Why should I have to give you something? And in the end, I think what they produced was a rendering. They said, well, this is basically what we have in mind. It's not all our plans yet.
Well, I for one, would like to get a rendering. And if someone says no, they say no. And besides, for my own benefit, I think the public benefits from it. And, comments can be made even about design, and sometimes people change designs based on comments, and say, yeah, I can adjust that. So that's my feeling, is ask for it, but no, it's not required. And if somebody pushes back, so be it.
I agree with Michael. I think we should at least ask for it.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing. But when you say if they disagree, so be it. Does that mean we just move ahead and make a decision without it?
If by municipal code, we can't force them to do it, yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. No, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that.
Keep in mind, if somebody has a site that's heavily wooded, let's say, or now you're concerned, are they taking down all the trees? Where is the house going to go? Where is it? How is it situated? So there, I mean, there may be other factors that concern you that you are entitled to think about. Doesn't mean you're denying it, but what you're asking. So, gee, you have all these beautiful trees here in the front. Where's the house gonna be? Or, gee, you've already like cleared the site. You've taken it's empty now. Are you gonna put trees? Where are you gonna put the trees? Are you gonna buffer for your neighbors? Like, what's happening? Because we've gone through this for the public, where the public says, gee, I'd just like to know some things. I'm interested. I live next door. I live across the street. So I think that's why the board started taking that course to say, all right, we'll see what information, we will ask for some information. We won't just look at it in the vacuum of it's a narrow lot, done.
Right, I mean, so we'll ask for it.
Good.
We'll ask for it. I think we all benefit from seeing.
Okay, good.
Right.
Yep,
When's our next meeting?
December 15th. And we'll have to have some special meetings in January. We have a lot of cases backlogged, so and a couple people were supposed to be on tonight and I'm noticing wasn't done properly. So in the next couple weeks, we'll be sending out some emails to see availability for some special meetings in January, probably February.
I'm out of town the first 2 weeks in January now, if that makes any difference.
Well, thanks. Keep it in mind. Thank you, Stevie.
Okay, all right, we'll see you all on December 15th.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice
Thank
night.
you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Good.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
India.
Hi, everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye. Hey, James, what's the D for?
My last name, what do you think? It's been in the family a long time.
I'm sure. Good.
Yeah.
See you guys.
All right, cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.